Hi, welcome to VJR Yoga. I'm Val, and today we're going to do a quick practice to help open up the hips and the low back. If you happen to have any yoga props handy, you can have them at the side just in case you need them or would like them in any of our poses. I would suggest a yoga strap or a belt, maybe a couple yoga blocks or some pillows for cushion, and any sort of a blanket. I'm going to be using a blanket you might typically see in a yoga studio. Any blanket will do. So if you'd like to grab those props, go ahead and take a moment to pause the video and then we'll get started. So today we're going to begin in a seat, and you can start in a chair, you can start with your legs extended. I'm going to choose to start cross-legged today. And if you do have a blanket or a pillow or some sort of support you'd like to sit up on, that can be really helpful for tight hips. So you can place that underneath the hips so you sit up a little bit higher. What's important is that you find a seated position where you're able to stay grounded in your sit bones and then press into that grounding to find some space in the long spine. So starting there, maybe taking a little wiggles to find your center. And then we'll start by taking 3 breaths. You can either allow the gaze to fall soft and down or close completely. I'm breathing in through the nose. Let's breathe out through the mouth. 2 more, just like that. Finding presence in this space. 1 more round. Let's lift the gaze or blink the eyes open and begin to explore a little movement. Let's shift the weight side to side a couple of times. Noticing how the hip joints feel, how the side body feels, if there's any tightness or restrictions. And then we're going to take this into hip circles. And the next time you come over to the right side, we're going to inhale, come forward, and then exhale to come back. Inhaling to come forward and exhaling to come back. And you get to decide how large or small you'd like these circles to be. If you feel one area in the hips or anywhere that feels particularly tense today, or like it's catching, you might decide to pause for a moment or two, take a couple of breaths in stillness. You might begin to take this into a modified seated cat-cow. So as you inhale forward, arching the spine, possibly looking up, and as you exhale, rounding the spine, maybe dropping the chin to the chest. Let's take 1 or 2 more circles in this direction. And then the next time you're at the back, we're going to reverse. Inhaling over to the left, forward, exhaling as you come through the right and back. Let your elbows be soft, soften your jaw, and notice the roots of your sit bones, this resource of grounding, as we explore the mobility of the hips today. You might notice some clicking, some little pops and crackles. It's completely normal, especially if you're starting this video earlier in the day. Be mindful that you're still breathing. We'll take about 3 more rounds on this side. Always having the option to come out of a pose whenever you need to or would like to. All right, taking 1 last round. And then pausing in the center, nice long spine. Stay rooted in your sit bones as we bring the left ankle in front of the right ankle. The right heel is going to pull in towards the midline. And if that's not comfortable, a few other options here, lots of variations. You can place the left ankle on top of the knee, stacking it, or you can come to a cross-legged position with the left foot in front. Take a moment to decide which version of this allows you to keep that grounding, that long spine. You can either choose to sit up here and feel into any sensations that are in the hips already, maybe even patting under the knees. Or if you're feeling it today, you can bring your hands down to the earth. So if you have those props, it can be really helpful to slide them either under the hands or maybe under the forearms. And taking a few breaths, see if you can resist going as far as you can right into your edge, easing your way into this pose, letting it have a beginning, a middle, and an end. If you choose to use props, you might decide to put them off to the side if you find a little more spaciousness in the hips, if they start to open up. Keep the elbows soft, the palms grounded, and the chin tucked. You might even begin to drop the chin towards the chest, opening the back of the neck. Maybe find a little side to side sway. Staying grounded in your sit bones and continuing with your breath. We'll take just a couple more breaths here. Maybe sighing it out the mouth. And then on an inhale, walking the hands back up and switching sides. This time the right ankle comes to the front or underneath or on top of the knee. Take a moment to find center, your grounding. And then as you inhale, maybe placing the hands in front of you. Another option, if it feels better to sit up tall, might be to place the hands behind you and lift the heart. And just like we did on the other side, gradually coming into this pose, feeling into the hips, honoring any sensations that you notice with curiosity, with kindness. And then perhaps walking the hands forward, either onto props or away from you on the earth. Soft elbows, maybe coming onto the forearms or keeping the arms straight as you press into the palms. Chin is tucked, back is long to start. And then after a few breaths, if you'd like, you can start to round, dropping the chin in towards the chest. Maybe finding that sway. And remembering that we tend to hold a lot of tension in the hips. So especially if you've been stressed lately or sitting a lot, your hips might be a little more tense than you're used to. Being mindful of that. And then we're going to take one more breath here, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. Great. On your next inhale, we're going to walk the hands back up. Pause for just a moment. Notice if there's been any change, any shift in sensation. And then we're going to make our way onto all fours for tabletop. If you do have a blanket, you can pad your knees if you'd like a little extra support there, or there's always the option to fold up your mat. A little extra cushion can be really helpful in these kneeling poses. Taking the hands wide just forward of the shoulders, knees under the hips, we're going to engage the belly by knitting the ribs in, abdominals come in and up, and then as we inhale, we're going to soften the elbows, drop the belly, sweep the gaze up for cow. As you exhale, begin to press the earth away with your hands, with your shins as we round and take the gaze back towards the toes for cat. Inhaling, let your breath guide this movement. And exhaling to round. Notice how the hips feel as you continue to follow your breath through this cat-cow flow. Notice the places of your body that are touching the earth, that are supported, and the places that you have room for movement. You might guide your inhales into any areas that feel particularly tense today. Let's take one more full round. Maybe pausing for a second as you exhale. And then coming back to a flat back to center. Let's bring the hips a little left to right. Checking in with the IT band, the hip joints. You might decide to take your gaze in the opposite direction of the hips. So maybe as the hips come to the left, you take your gaze over to the right, maybe towards the right foot. Inhale through center. Exhale as the hips come to the right, the gaze can come over towards the left. This can be any amount. Notice which side might be a little tighter. And see if you can notice anything that feels good here. We're not always looking for things to work on or what might not feel the way we want it to. All right, coming back through center. If you do have pillows or blocks, I recommend placing them at the top of the mat here. We're going to come into our low lunge. So again, engaging the abdominals, we're going to use the strength and resource of our core to step the right foot forward. Feel free to use the hand to assist the foot forward. And then be mindful to stack knee over ankle here. So if the knee starts passing the ankle, either scooch the front foot forward or the back knee back. We're going to take a moment here to find our breath in low lunge. Notice what's happening in the shoulders. If they're squeezing up towards the ears, roll the shoulders up and back. Let the shoulder blades slide down towards the sacrum. The chin stays gently tucked as the heart lifts. You can be on fingertips, flat palms, to earth, to props. And keeping the belly engaged, maybe pressing into the top of that back foot. And then you can either stay here, or if you'd like to take a lizard variation of this pose, take your right hand, swing it to the inside of the right foot, and we're going to heel toe the foot off to the side. Your toes might point towards that top right corner of the mat, or off to the side of the long edge. And if you'd like any different sensation, you might play with a variation of dropping the right knee open just slightly onto the outer edge of the right foot. And if you are someone who's naturally flexible or even hypermobile, it's important that we don't overstretch here. The more that we overstretch or that hypermobility can make us lose stability. So we want to be mindful that we're not going past any edge that feels safe. Let's take one more breath. And then if you chose the lizard variation, we're going to heel toe the foot back into center. And taking one breath into a twist, rooting through that left hand as we inhale, sweep the right arm up. Exhale, release it back down. Shifting into half splits or runner stretch. If you have your blocks, you can walk back your hands with them. The hands are going to come back to frame the hips, and as we rock onto the right heel, the toes will point up towards the sky, the leg extends. Keep as much of a bend in the knee as feels good in the back of the leg. Nice long spine, and smooth breath. Softening the joints, the jaw. As we're here, if you start to feel a little more spacious in the back of the leg, you might pull the toes more towards your face, especially that pinky toe, or extend the knee just a little bit more. Let's take one more breath in and out. Using the strength of your core, coming back up through our low lunge, and then switching sides. Finding tabletop in the center. Pause for just a moment. If you'd like, you can draw some hip circles or rock the hips side to side to let that go. And then we're going to repeat that on the opposite side, engaging the core, using that resource to step or slide the left foot forward, using whatever assistance that you might need today. Taking a moment to be mindful of alignment. Pressing into the four corners of the left foot as you start to lift the heart, tuck the chin, and then slide the shoulder blades down towards your sacrum. Breathing into the opening of the right hip flexors here, the quads, the psoas. Maybe pressing into the top of the back foot, four corners of the front foot, So although we feel a deep opening of the hips here, really noticing that this is a full body experience as we breathe in and out. And then if this feels like enough sensation, you can stay here. If you'd like to play with another variation, I invite you to swing that left hand to the inside of the foot and then heel toe the foot off to the left. You'll feel this a little more into the inner thigh, especially if you decide to try that option to drop onto the outer edge of the left foot, knee dropping open. Soft elbows, soft gaze, soft breath. And then whichever version you're in, we're going to make our way into our twist. So if you're in your lizard, bring your foot back into center. And then just for one breath, rooting through the right hand as we inhale to sweep the left arm up. Exhale, release the arm. Coming into our half splits, feel free to grab your blocks and walk them back with your hands as the left leg starts to extend. The knee is soft. The toes pull towards your face. Imagine that you're reaching your heart for your foot as your spine stays long. Notice if, as we start to relieve some of the tension in the back of the leg, if it shifts anywhere else. So commonly we might start to clench our jaw, we might start to clench the shoulders. See if you can continue to check in with these other areas, and when they do clench, softening them, sending them some breath. Let's take one more round of breath here, breathing in through the nose, and then out through the mouth. Walking the hands forward through our lunge, and then bringing the foot back. Walk the hands back to the knees, and we're going to make our way onto our backs. So maybe swinging the legs to one side, or taking any transition that makes sense in your body today. As we come onto our backs, keep the knees bent, the feet will be flat on the floor. If you have your yoga strap handy or a belt, and you're tight in the hips, that can be really handy, so you might want to grab it. We'll start by placing the right foot on top of the left knee. Let the right knee drop open. Shoulders shimmy away from the ears. If this is enough sensation, you can pause here. You might begin to lift your left toes, maybe lift the left foot, and start to bring the left knee in towards the heart. So the strap would come in handy to wrap it around your shin or your thigh, but if you don't have your strap, you can use your hands, maybe even just hold onto your pants. Allow your head to be heavy into the earth. So if you notice that you're reaching and squeezing up, you might take a softer stretch, bringing the left knee further away from you, or put a little bit of padding under your head with a blanket or a low pillow. Soften the shoulders as the hip starts to release. And as you breathe, notice the way the inhale presses your back against the earth, grounding into the support of your mat, of your practice. You can stay still, enjoying a static pose, or perhaps taking a soft rock side to side. This can feel nice as a low back massage, maybe releasing a little emotional stress that we often carry in these areas of the body. And pausing in center if you found some movement, taking one more full breath. And then releasing both feet to the earth. Pause for just a moment. Notice how your legs and hips feel. And then we'll repeat that on the opposite side. So bringing the left foot to the top of the right knee. And even if you know how far you can go in this pose normally, if you're familiar with this reclined pigeon, I encourage you to take this slow transition in. So first pressing the left knee away, lifting the heel, and then maybe, if it makes sense in your body today for your practice, bringing the right knee in towards the heart. And taking hold of whatever's accessible so you can feel a comfortable stretch. Use your soft breath to find a sense of curiosity about any sensations in the body. And if sensations in the mind or thoughts start to take you away out of this present moment, come back to the sound, the texture, the sensations of your inhales and exhales. Feeling the support of the earth beneath you. The eyes can be closed or soft. Maybe finding that soft rock side to side. Let's take one more round of breath on this side. And then releasing both feet back down to the earth, pausing for a moment. Awesome. From here, we're going to bring our arms out to our sides. That can either be with bent elbows into these cactus arm variation, or arms can come to a T. Anything that feels good in the upper body. Use the strength of your core. Belly button pulls in and up as we lift the knees over the hips. Take an inhale here. And as you exhale, start to drop your your knees over to the right. And if you have props, you might want to place them underneath your knees here, especially if your left shoulder blade is peeling up off of the ground. A little space is fine. So if the left shoulder blade is not on the earth, just anchoring it down towards the mat. And keeping this twist initiating from the waist. And feeling the way it travels all the way up the spine. Your gaze can stay up, maybe head towards the bent knees, or in the opposite direction away from the knees, you choose. We'll take a couple more breaths here. And pulling the belly in and up. Take an inhale. As you exhale, use your core to bring your knees back to center. Inhale here. And exhale over to the opposite side. Right shoulder blade stays as grounded as possible. If there's any discomfort in the low back, place a prop or a blanket, something underneath the legs, or maybe even between the knees. And if you don't have any props, especially if you're not used to using them and not expecting to need them, an option might be to take a fist and place it between the knees to take just a little bit of pressure off the right low back and SI joint. Seeing if you can allow the legs to begin to grow heavy, the face to soften, the arms to grow heavy. One more breath here. And exhaling. Allow the belly to pull in and up as you come back through center. And then squeeze your knees in towards your chest for just a moment, maybe rocking side to side, getting a little back massage in. Shifting into our happy baby pose. Bring the knees a little bit wider towards the armpits, and the soles of the feet are going to come up towards the sky. So anything that you can grab onto on your outer leg is great here. If the shins, the calves are not accessible, you might grab the backs of the thighs, or option to grab the outer legs, the lower legs, or maybe the outer feet. Option to start with a little bit of a rock here, side to side. Again, feeling any massage in the low back, mid back. You can continue with a rock. You might rest in the center in stillness, or find a little more muscle engagement by gently pressing the feet into the hands or pressing the feet up towards the sky as you pull down on the legs. So pressing the hands into the feet, creating a little resistance. And take one more breath. And as you exhale, let's release the feet down to the earth. Arms rest at your sides, nice and wide as we inhale. And exhale, bring the soles of the feet together as the knees drop open. You can place any sort of props underneath your thighs or your knees here for support. And once again, if you don't have that handy, you can maybe sneak your fists underneath your hips, your upper thighs for just a little bit extra support here. If you've never tried that before, you might try it just to see if anything changes, if it feels even 1% better. And then once you've settled into center, we'll take 3 full breaths together. Starting by breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. I encourage you to make a little more noise each time breathing in. Exhaling out. The last round. Tops of the thighs are heavy. And then we're going to really gently use the hand to guide the right knee over towards the left knee to roll onto your side. Or take any transition that feels safe in your body to come into fetal pose for a moment. And then pressing into the earth to come back to a seated position. And just like as we began, any seated position that feels natural and comfortable. And pausing in the center, we'll bring our hands to our heart, gently lift the sternum up towards your thumbs. Take a soft gaze down or allow the eyes to close as we take one final breath in through the nose, side out the mouth. Thank you so much for taking this time for yourself, for your self-care, and for sharing this time with me. I hope to see you soon.